Let him hear it. Great reminder. Coming next to the stage, gotta please show some love for the very talented Renaud. Let him hear it.
Thank you, Reed. Good evening, folks. My name is Renaud. Got some news to share. I recently got my son his first computer. Thank you. Oh, prescient. That's coming up. That's coming up. But the first thing is, unfortunately, I was caught stealing it. Yeah, the Apple Store had an eyewitness. Not much you can do. I knew that what he really cared about more than anything at the end of the day was sound quality, though. So I ended up buying him a Dell. Ungrateful brat, though. He was disappointed. He was angry because it was PC. So I put a MAGA sticker on it. Not PC anymore. They won't even let him take it to school. Of course, that didn't used to be a problem. A couple years ago, pandemic, lockdown, I got to see my son's entire 6th grade experience play out right in my living room. Not good. The school bully would make him Venmo over his lunch money. I'm glad that the schools are reopened. I think it's much healthier for him to get bullied in person. I'm not sure if you folks remember this, when President Biden was on the campaign trail back during the summer of 2019, he got in front of the Asian and Latino coalition and told them, look, poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. And what gets me is, did he conduct any studies or do any research before making that assertion? Because it makes it sound like all the money I'm putting into my kid's education is a waste if he's going to end up no more talented than a poor kid. You know? If Trump had said something like that, Snopes would have been all over it. They would have been like, Trump, you're wrong. Of course, you know, we know Trump. You'll never hear him suggesting that poor kids are as bright and talented as white kids. You know where he stands on that one. But yeah, this is just a joke. I don't put any money into my son's education. He goes to public school. He goes to public school down in San Francisco. Anyone else here the product of our public school education system? A little bit. I was happy. I was like, cool, you know, California public education seems nice. Up until I heard about this school-to-prison pipeline. Did you hear about this? Who signed off on that? I don't know if you folks have heard of a little project called Keystone XL, but it is almost impossible to get a pipeline set up in this country. Yet we have a school-to-prison pipeline. That's like, sounds like something that should only exist in the Jordan Peele remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Devontre, this is your 3rd D in social studies. What? And I hate to say it, but our public schools are doing a terrible job of preparing these kids for prison. Even the really bad schools are not doing a very good job. It's not like we're teaching these kids prisoner's dilemma. That's a 300 level economics class. Let's get these resources where they belong. So how are you folks doing tonight? That joke divided the room real hard. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. This couple back here, you folks having fun at the end of the table? You doing good? You a couple together? How'd you guys meet on Tinder or dating apps? No? You didn't do the dating apps? Well, it's not too late. Maybe now's the time. No, I'm sure you guys are happy, but I get that a lot of people aren't fans of the dating apps. I, for one, am a fan. I actually found my wife on Tinder. Yeah, thank you. That's how I got custody. But I really did find the love of my life on Tinder just recently. And I did the smart thing. I didn't waste a super like. She was way out of my league. Instead, what I did is I left the app open, and I've been driving around the city using the distance indicator to triangulate her location. It's going really well. I've got it down to like a 2-block radius. I think it's going to work out. Everyone hear the big news around debt forgiveness? Yeah, I know. Shame on them, right? It's like Sleepy Joe might forgive those folks, but we don't need to forgive them. I say starting right now, if you suspect someone attended college, no tip. Not for the next $10,000, you know? Of course, simultaneously, speaking of debt, folks want to put our former president's face on our currency. Are you seeing this? People want to get Trump on our currency. It's like, oh, sorry, Harriet Tubman. We already got Maya Angelou. We're going to have to save some spots for people who are actually president. You too, Rosa Parks. I'm afraid we're going to need your seat after all. There's a white guy that needs it. I'm sure that at some point Trump asked Rosa Parks for her seat. I'm sure he got onto a bus in Detroit. Was like, excuse me, everybody knows. I'm actually fine with putting Trump's face on our currency, folks, as long as we put him on the IOU. Fitting, right? Fitting. But we're making a lot of progress. It's a better world now. We're making a lot of, covering a lot of ground in terms of making mental health, a little more comfortable. People are being a lot more accommodating towards mental health. I can't help but notice that certain pathologies are getting left by the wayside, though. No one's trying to normalize narcissism. People are writing these articles saying these very hurtful things about narcissists. Could you imagine if someone were to write an article saying, what to do if one of your friends is struggling with bipolar depression? Cut them out of your life. Move towns, switch numbers, do not accept their apologies or gifts. It's harsh. Sometimes science is against us. Do you folks know what the term is for a fear of large words? I swear to you, I am not making this up. The term for a fear of large words is hippopotamonstrosesquipedaliophobia. All one word. Where was the Hippocratic Oath when they named that one? Imagine some dude, just going about his life, living under the specter of some fear, but then all of a sudden he gets a call from his doctor and she's like, okay, hey, David, yeah, so your tests came back. I'm afraid you've got a fear of large words. Yeah, that's not the worst part. David, are you sitting down? Okay, well, the name of your phobia, I'm sorry, but it's hippopotamonstrosesquipedaliophobia. David, I'm so sorry. How's David gonna find a support group for that? He goes to Google it. He has to overcome his fear just before he can find it. It's weird. But yeah, in other news, my parents, they just did the 23andMe thing, which is cool. We found out that I'm related to Stephen Colbert. Cool, right? I really hope he also got a notification, though. I think you would want to know that he's related to one of the Bay's bottom-tier comedians. We'll do something for his ego. A little more about my parents. It was actually both of their birthdays this month. They're both born in September. My dad turned 75, my mom turned 68. So they're 7 years apart in age. Growing up, I never thought that was weird or anything. But recently I learned they were high school sweethearts. Math on that's a little strange. Stranger still, both of their mothers were math teachers. Both of my grandmothers on either side of the family were math teachers. So you think, that would include into them. But it turns out it means that the closest thing you get to a sex talk in my family is the foil method. First outer, inner last. It's good advice. It's good advice. But speaking of people who are married for a long time, you folks know how penguins mate for life? Did you hear this, that penguins mate for life? I'm sure it's just that anything living that close to the North Pole must be super Christian. I bet they hate it too. Of all the things that suck about being a penguin, I'm sure the mating for life thing is the one that gets them the most. And you're all familiar with the birthright program, right? In case you're not, it's this really cool program that Israel has, whereby Jewish kids born anywhere in the world get a free trip to Israel. It's really cool. And if you're lucky enough to be one of the Jewish kids born in the Palestinian territories, they actually go a step further. They don't just send you to Israel. Your whole neighborhood actually becomes Israel. And the Palestinian kids get sent to Jordan. It works out real well for the Israeli kids. But my point is, if the whole Christianity thing was the real deal, clearly they would have a birthright program sending Christian kids to the North Pole, right? Just buy these little Christian kids a ticket on the Polar Express. They go up there, there's Santa's workshop, there's the elves, there's reindeer. I get it, you got me. Clearly this Christ guy is the real deal. I'm just kidding, folks. I know that penguins don't live at the North Pole. Come on, take it easy. So, I'm someone who cares a lot about the environment. Recently, I had a friend come to visit me, And she said, and I said, what do you want to do? We can go up to the Coit Tower, we can go up to wine country, we can go over to Berkeley. She said, let's just get in the car and see where the open road takes us. And in my head, that's the same thing as saying, you know what, let's just turn on the stove while we figure out what we want to do for dinner. All 4 ranges, why not? Let's go for it, you know? It's absurd. I was reading an article just the other day about all the best things that you can do for the environment. Turns out the number 1 thing that you can do for the environment is to have 1 fewer child. Easy enough. Unfortunately, the article didn't clarify how you're supposed to dispose of it. I'm assuming it's compostable. But now that the pandemic's over, everyone's back in the office. Everyone here back in the office, going back into work and stuff? No? Good. Good for you. But remember when we did all have to go and like congregate with people in a common place? Do people here remember public bathrooms? Sharing bathrooms with your colleagues? It's horrible. It's terrible. There's always 3 worries you have to worry about whenever you're sharing a public bathroom experience, right? The first is that someone's going to walk in on you when you're in the bathroom. Easy. Keep it locked. It's just like a seatbelt. Every time, keep it locked. I get sometimes the lock doesn't work or whatever, but just put a foot on it. Especially if you see someone coming, put a foot on it. But the second fear is that you're going to walk in on someone else using the restroom. And that one's harder to defend against because you don't know if they're protecting themselves by keeping it locked or not. So you have to do a preliminary inquiry, right? It begins with a sniff test. Do any smells or sounds indicate that the stall is occupied? If the answer is no, that's not totally dispositive because there still could be someone, discreetly in there. So what you have to do is you have to venture to the corner of the stall, which brings me to my 3rd and greatest fear, which is locking eyes with someone through the narrow opening of a closed and occupied bathroom stall. Because when you walk in on someone, there's a brief dialogue. Oh, geez, excuse me, sorry. But when someone catches you looking into a closed and occupied bathroom stall, they're going to keep you scared. They're going to be like, what are you doing? There's nothing you can say. You just got to run away, which is exactly what I'm going to do. My name is Renaud. You all have been absolutely fabulous. Thank you.
Renaud, everybody, let him hear it. One more comment left, then we're going to do this.